Greetings, lords and ladies, and welcome to the Westeros Vibe review of Game of Thrones Season 6, Episode 3, Oathbreaker. This review will consist of me talking about each scene/place one at a time, and at the end giving each one a mark, and finally, through a complicated formula, reaching a scientific grade for the entire episode. These are just going to be off the top of my head ideas. I have not written down anything except for a few notes, and so sorry for any stuttering or incoherence which may occur during this review. The episode starts off, predictably enough, at the Wall, where Jon Snow wakes up after being resurrected by Melisandre, of course. The scene is impressively shot, and the look of genuine shock on Jon and Davos's and Melisandre's faces all describe the situation perfectly. Melisandre's plea and questioning of Jon is truly significant, as she sees it as a way to rekindle her own faith by asking Jon what he saw beyond, and him saying that he didn't see anything, just total blackness. Probably wasn't what she wanted to hear. However, the fact that her magic actually worked in bringing him back seems to have rekindled her faith anyway in her god, in her red god. Another important line that she uttered was, "Stannis was not the prince that was promised, but someone has to be." As in prophecy, this is a thing in the books. Prophecy tends to have a way of fulfilling itself, but in more than iffy situations. As in, the text may be plain, however, the way in which it is fulfilled is not always the way you would expect. For example, take the prince that was promised, aka Azor Ahai prophecy. That can be fulfilled in many ways. For example, Stannis was, he drew a flaming sword from effigies of the Seven. He was born amidst salt and smoke, salt of the sea and the smoke of the fire, of the pyre burning the seven gods. And that was Melisandre trying to make prophecy happen. But in this case, Jon appears to be the prince that was promised. He died with smoking wounds because it was cold. Salt from the tears in the eyes. I don't think there was any bleeding stars, although if Kit Harington is a star and he was bleeding, so you could look at it that way. The flaming sword thing, is not really clear, but the flaming sword, Ghost has red eyes, so it's possible that Ghost will be his flaming sword, or maybe it's just his Valyrian one. As we all know, it kills others, and the only thing that kills other than that is obsidian. And obsidian is fire-made stone, so you can look at Valyrian steel, dragon steel as a flaming sword. So he may have the full set there. Next up, he exits the room, and of course he is quite shaken. He needs Davos to lean on. And the Free Folk are impressed, and Tormund explains that they consider him a sort of god, which makes sense considering that the Free Folk, at least some of them, consider the others gods, as they are quite invulnerable, and they also raise people from the dead. So who else but a god could have that kind of power? And of course, then Tormund hugs Jon and welcomes him back into the world of the living with a dick joke, which is quite funny and quite keeping in character with the Tormund of the books. Too bad I don't have more moments like that in the show, because the tournament of the books is way, way better than the one in the show. And then Jon goes to Ed Tollett, his only remaining best friend at the Wall, hugs him, makes a small quip, and end of the scene. This was a great way to start the episode, as it brings closure to the shocker that was last episode's finale. And it delivers. It delivers the confusion on with Jon, Melisandre, and Davos's reactions. The awe of the situation is shown in the eyes of the Free Folk and the other Night's Watchmen. And business as usual. Kit even has a few great lines here. For example, Ed asks him if he is in there. Is it still him? And then he says, "I think so," as in he still has some doubts. Of course, death changes a person, especially when that person finds out that beyond death there is nothing, there is blackness, and that changes his perspective on life. But we shall talk more about that in the last scene. Moving on to Sam and Gilly. So with Sam and Gilly we get mostly exposition and a few jokes, including comparison between C and C, SEE and ESEA, and a few vomit jokes, and the rest is basically exposition. Although the jokes in themselves are not terribly clever or funny, they're there. They tie the scene together. So the story is that they are, of course, going towards Old Town in order to, for Sam to become Maester and for Gilly to escape her northern roots and emancipate herself. Not. It's the Middle Ages after all. There is no feminine emancipation. Anyway, moving on to the exposition. We learn that Old Town is the most beautiful city in all of Westeros. It is possible that's the case. It's basically I don't think it's a canal city, although it may be. It does have a river going through it, and it's full of old and beautiful buildings, and the citadel and the tower of the high towers. It's a wonderful city, and it may just be the most beautiful. Maybe Highgarden is better looking. I have no idea. We haven't seen Highgarden, in the show or in the books yet. Another bit of exposition is that we learn that Gilly will be staying with Sam's family. For those of you who don't know who Sam's family is, here is some book information. In the books, Sam has a mother, a father, a small brother, and more than one sister. In the show, they limit that to just the one sister, and the rest of the family is untouched. So his father is Randall Tarly of Castle Hornhill. He is one of Mace Tyrell's most loyal bannermen and is a master strategist. He is basically a great warrior, and he has proved himself in many battles in the past. Then you have his mother, who I don't remember exactly what was her name. You have Dickon, his little brother, although in the show I don't know if they will stick with little brother or they will age him up. The conflict in the books was that Sam grew up to be more, feminine, fat, liked songs and didn't like to fight. And Dickon was basically the son that Randall could be proud of. And so he decided to make Dickon his heir and, to leave him his great sword when he died. And so he sent Sam to the Wall forcefully, or else he would have, as you all know, hunted him down like a pig for slaughter. And so Dickon will probably play the role of the bully this season, the bully to Sam's innocent little fat hide. And then we have his sister. I think her name is Dala, if I'm not mistaken, or is Dala the mother? I'm not quite sure. And growing up, at least in the book, Sam had a cozy relationship with his sisters, not in a Lannister sort of way, but in the sort of way that, you know, he preferred the company of his sister. You know, he learned songs, he learned to dance, so he was into his feminine side more. And of course, that meant he was quite fond of his sisters. He spent a lot of time with them, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So you may we may actually get some nice, you know, sentimental moments between them. You know, remembering the good old times. You know, while Randall, you know, and Dickon make his life miserable for him. Although I don't think Sam will spend too much time at Hornhill. He does have other engagements in Old Town after all. But for what we will get, I think we'll get, you know, things will be fine with his family. It will be nice to see Randall Tarly represented in the show, and to do him justice. Well, that's the ship done with. Moving on to the next segment, the next set of scenes. So next up we have Bran and Bloodraven and the infamous Tower of Joy scene. Well, half of it at least, the fighting part. Alright, so the setup. For those of you who don't know, the Tower of Joy incident took place after, well, at the end of Robert's Rebellion. Rhaegar, as you saw there, had already died on the Trident. The Mad King was already stabbed in the back by Jaime Lannister. And, well, Ned had one more job to do. He had to retrieve his sister. The official reason for the start of the rebellion. And, in the books, it is, 7 versus 3. The 7 are, of course, Ned. You have Howland Reed, of course. Then you have, I think, Jory Cassell's father. You have, I think, Lord Dustin, and a few others. Those are the ones I can remember at this moment. But there were other Northern lords, and not only lords, but you know, companions of Ned at that age. And on the other side, we had the old bull Gerald Dane. We had, of course. Gerald Hightower, sorry. Then you had, of course, Arthur Dane, the Sword of the Morning. And then you had Oswald Went, I believe, from what I remember. And their job was to protect the tower and what lay in it. And of course, what lay inside it was Lyanna Stark, Ned's sister. Who we will discuss later. Well, in other episodes, actually, once we find out exactly what went on after the fight. A few things irk me about this scene. First and foremost, well, of course, we had to see this scene eventually, but you have to understand, in the books, when Bran sees the past, he sees it only through eyes of weirwoods. He sees it through trees. He connects himself to trees. He weds himself to the weirwood system, and so he can glimpse things from the past, present, and future through the eyes of the trees. Now, the fight takes place in the Dornish Mountains, where there are no weirwood trees. So Bran, even in the books, will not see that as it will unfold, I'm pretty sure. Most likely, we will get to see the fight we will hear tales of the fight from another POV, from Howland Reed, most likely. I really do not, unless Ned confessed, the whole fight in front of the Winterfell Hearthree. Maybe then we will get to see more. Next up, the fact that Arthur Dane wields two swords just baffles me. For those of you who don't know, House Dane is very special. They have a title called the Sword of the Morning, and Arthur was one of them. The one of his generation, and right now, and each sword of the Morning is the only one who has the privilege to wield Dawn. Now, Dawn is a great sword, but it's not a Valyrian one. There are tales that the sword was forged from a meteorite which fell from a falling star, and that's why the sigil of House Dane contains a falling star. Some people speculate that the sword was Lightbringer in the distant past. That is yet to be confirmed in the books or in the show, but we may get to find... Actually, no, in the show we will not find out because, as I've said, Arthur Dane here is wielding two swords, and not the one, Dawn, which from all accounts is as good as any Valyrian steel sword. There was some conversation, there wasn't really much atmosphere. In the books, this passage is described beautifully. It is one of the most iconic and best written passages in the whole book. The setup, the fight, the dream that Ned had, because this takes place inside Ned's dream. He dreamed an old dream. There were 7 or something like that. 7 against 3, and only him and Howland Reed survived the fight. This may be a book spoiler, I'm not sure. It's possible that this went on in the books, you know. For example, Ned and his companions killed the 2, and then Arthur Dane was the last. And at least in the show, they acknowledged that Arthur Dane was way better than Ned Stark. Which always begged the question, how did Howland Reed manage to save Ned? Because in the book it says that that Ned survived because of Howland Reed. The fact that Howland Reed in the show stabbed Arthur Dane in the back may be an indication that that's actually what happened in the books. Or it may be that Howland convinced Arthur Dane to yield and to go into exile or something, but I don't think so. I really do not think so. We will see exactly what goes on in Winds of Winter, because I think that will be the book where everything will be revealed, setting up for the last chapter, A Dream of Spring. There were some lines from the book. We look for you on the Trident. We weren't there. Now it begins. No, now it ends. Those were good lines. Those were lines directly from the book, and they are just perfect. But again, I am quite saddened that they abandoned certain things from the book because they made sense. And another thing, when Bran said "Dad" and he turned around, it is true that time is weird. It is possible that he heard him, but of course he may have heard the wind. It is most likely that he heard the wind, because in the books when you go into a tree and see the past, you may be able to interact with the past, but only through nature sounds. So for example, there is some timey-wimey things. For example, in the books, he actually said "Dad" when he was in the hearth, when he was possessing the hearth tree in the past, and Ned looked up, but you know, did he look up because Bran had already said "Dad" and leaves rustled, or did the leaves rustle anyway and Bran picked the correct time to say "Dad"? It isn't quite explained, but you know. The simplest explanation is that it was predetermined. Bran was always supposed to go into the tree, and so he was always supposed to say "Dad" at that exact point, and so Ned looked up and only heard the rustling of leaves. And then of course Bloodraven cock blocks everyone by seeing what's in the tower, by getting Bran the fuck away from the dream and the flashback. I mean, of course. And then yet again he reiterates what we already knew, that Bran will not stay there forever. Now, does this mean that Bran will sacrifice himself and enter the Weirwood system and live on as, I don't know, a disembodied voice who will be able to influence events through heart trees and such, or through animals? I don't think so. I do believe that he will actually be allowed to leave with Hodor and Mira and whatever. Although, of course, if the Jojen Pace theory is correct in the books, then yeah, we will see. This scene was okay. The fight was a bit underwhelming. I expected more from it. I should also say this: the choreography was top notch. The actor which plays Arthur Dane is actually a very gifted swordsman, and it shows. The fight was superb again, but others have said it, and I will reiterate it. The Tower of Joy is not only about the fighting; it is about the atmosphere, the build-up, the lines, the melancholy, and the impending doom that awaits everyone there. It is a great scene in the books, and unfortunately, it didn't translate perfectly to the show, but it was decent. They did the best they could, and that's really what we can ask of them, to do the best they could, and it's okay. Moving on to Daenerys and the Dosh Khaleen now. So the Daenerys scene was short and sweet. We start off with, of course, the wide shot of Vaes Dothrak, impressive as ever, and then we move on to the Dosh Khaleen scene. And of course, Dany strips, although of course we don't see anything because for some reason Emilia Clarke has become quite bashful regarding her boobies on screen, and so we didn't get to see anything. But okay, it's her choice. Yeah, but we still have season 3 or 4 to look back to with fondness. Whatever. Okay, the Dosh Khaleen scene brings about some interesting discussions. Every Khaleesi there thought that their Khal would conquer the world, and he failed. And apparently the leader's Khal was Khal Savo, which I don't know if is a reference to an ancient Khal or something. I like to think that Khal Savo was actually mentioned in the book, the World of Ice and Fire, the World book, and that they took the name from there. But it could be something from Winds of Winter. Daenerys may have a meeting. Daenerys will have a meeting with the Dosh Khaleen like this, and there will be probably a former Khaleesi there who had a Khal Savo for a husband. Who knows? It's possible. It may be a short invention. She may actually meet that person in the books. But I'm pretty sure that the scene will not go down this way, because in the books, at this point, Daenerys had a not a firm control, but she had more control on Drogon, and the Dothraki found her and the dragon feasting upon the seared corpse of a horse, and so that was an impressive display of power there. So I don't know if she will be treated like this in the books too. I don't think so. The discussions, it is pretty interesting. Basically, because Daenerys went into the world, it is a special case, and so the Dosh Khaleen will decide if she will become one of them, or if her fate lies somewhere else. And somewhere else meaning, of course, either death or slavery. Those, I think, are the two most likely options in case she is not chosen as one of the Dosh Khaleen or accepted into it. There is a third option after a fourth option, which people seem to discuss a lot. She is a rider. She is the rider. She's the only dragon rider in the whole world. But the Dothraki value power, and dragons are power. The Dothraki value riders, and she rides that impressive beast. It is very possible that the prophecy about what she thought was her son, Rhaego, was actually meant for her. It is possible that Daenerys will be the rider, the Khal, well, Khaleesi in this case, who will unite the entire Dothraki people, unleashing them upon the slave cities and upon unsuspecting Westeros. Many people have speculated that this is how Daenerys will get her Dothraki army. That combined with the Unsullied and whatever free people from the slave cities will come with her, that will be her invasion force. But that is neither here nor there. We are only at the start of this storyline, so we will see where this goes. Jorah and Daario will be, somehow intertwined in it. They'll probably attempt some sort of rescue. I don't think it will work. They may get captured. They may get one of them killed. Mormont may actually unleash the Grey Plague upon the Dothraki, thus thinning the herd, as it were. I don't know. In any case, this scene was good. It was good. It was not perfect, but it was short. It was sweet. It gave us some information about the Doshkalin's job. Apparently, they meet in order to decide what cities they are going to sack and such. And we were officially introduced to them, of course. We heard a member of the Doshkalin speak. That's it for this scene. Next, let's move on to Meereen and a couple of scenes we have there. The first Meereen scene features everyone's favorite cockless wanderer, Varys, the spider. And after a short leather joke, they bring in Vala. Vala is the prostitute who betrayed the Unsullied and the Second Sons. And sold them to the Sons of the Harpy. And Varys, of course, with his usual tact and subtlety, tells her that he knows what she did, he knows who she is, he knows about her son. And of course, he then gently persuades her to tell him everything about the Sons of the Harpy, not through coercion or through threats, but, as he said, through making people happy. He offers her the chance to leave the city, never to look back, and all indications are that she will take the offer and never look back. Plus, a big bag of silver to start over, because of course. There's nothing really to comment here. The scene is decent. The actor who plays Varys is good as always. Varys scenes, especially when he's alone with someone, are especially, good, as it were. Decent at the least. And his face says it all. There is kindness, but from time to time there is a hard edge. For example, when he tells her that the penalty for what she did is death, and that he offers her another chance, a way out. As for book references, there are none, because Varys at this point in the books is at King's Landing doing malevolent shit. So without further ado, let's move on to my least favorite scene of the whole episode, the Tyrion one. What a massive disappointment the Tyrion scene was. At least until Varys came in. Tyrion nowadays is basically a comedic foil for the other characters. I am deeply, deeply worried about this. In the books at this point, Tyrion was suffering mentally at this point. He had gone through so much. He had killed his father. He stood a trial for which, he was accused of regicide, and he didn't kill Joffrey. He killed his father then. He had a he had a he basically made Jaime hate him, and he hated Jaime back. They were now enemies. He literally had no one. He was alone. He was depressed. The whole A Dance with Dragons book, Tyrion was this drunken mess who moved from folly to folly. And then he became Jorah's slave for a time. And then he, captive more like. And then he was on a ship, which was decent, I guess. And he met Penny, and they became a bit close. And by the end of the Dance with Dragons, he was in a better position, but he was still a bit of a mess. The Tyrion of the show is a freaking fool. Someone said, and this is actually a quote from I don't know if this friend of mine got the quote from something else, from someone else, or was his own, but it was, the man who quotes himself is a fool. And unfortunately, that is right. That is on point at this point. Tyrion quoting himself, conversations in elegant rooms. Who said that? I said that. You freaking fool, Tyrion. He trying to make conversation happen with these two, trying to be the funny guy. He is trying too damn hard. For God's sake, at this point, Tyrion is basically the hand of the queen. He should not be a fool, even in the small council room. What the hell? I understand that Tyrion's popularity comes from his wit, but wit has to come naturally. This was forced. This was wrong. This is not the Tyrion of the books. This is not the Tyrion of the show. What the hell is this? Are they really trying to make Tyrion this punchline? Is Tyrion now the new punchline of Game of Thrones? I understand that Game of Thrones right now is into some dark shit. Not main, but medium to large characters are dying left, right, and center. I get that. But for God's sake, you can do comic relief some other way. But your most popular character, just why? Why, showrunners? Why? Why make Tyrion a fool? When he doesn't like to be a fool, he likes to make people laugh through jokes or making fun of other people. But this is a bit demeaning, to be honest. What the hell, show? Yeah. The conversation attempts with Missandei and Grey Worm were cringeworthy, I'm sorry to say. But then Varys came in to lift the scene a bit. And we learned that in the show, the Sons of the Harpy are funded by the Masters of Astapor, the Masters of Yunkai, and the Slavers of Volantis. I don't know if this is the case in the books too. From what book readers can tell, the Sons of the Harpy in the books are basically the Sons of the Harpy maybe are not actually an organization. Maybe they're more of a symbol, and we have independent bands working and using that symbol to send a message. Or hell, they may actually be an organized group, I don't know. But in the show, they clearly made it an organized group, funded from the outside. Which, it resembles... They resemble a lot the Mujahideen. Really. From those... Or the Taliban. For those of you who don't know, in the 80s, the Taliban, aka the Mujahideen, were funded by the US, and this is on record. They were funded by the US in order to make war upon the Soviets who were trying to get into Afghanistan. So basically, they created radical fighters to fight the Soviets, and that grew into Al Qaeda, and all shit broke loose. But yeah, interesting ideas that the Sons of the Harpy actually funded from outside the city. Although, of course, inside the city, there is much animosity. I don't exactly know why it couldn't just be funded from inside the city, but it works for me. It makes sense, for outsiders to hire an internal army to do their bidding through gold and, of course, through promises, probably. This set of scenes, unfortunately, was dragged down a lot, like a whole lot, by the Tyrion stuff, and so the mark is not going to be high. I will unveil the marks at the end, I think. But yeah, it's not gonna be high. The marine scenes were the worst, and you have Tyrion to thank for that. Thank you, Peter Dinklage. Moving on to the next scene. Well, set of scenes. We are going to King's Landing. The first scene is a Qyburn scene, which then transferred into Qyburn, Sir Gregor, and Jaime Cersei scene. And we get to see, I think for the first time, Varys' little birds, and boy oh boy, they are really little. And just as Varys, said that he trusts little birds, well, it remains to be seen. Either the little birds have been swayed by Qyburn at this point, or they are actually quite still in Varys' pocket and they are playing along. I tend to think that them being children, they are now loyal to Qyburn. Okay, the scene starts off with a little boy with marks on his face from beatings, and the implication here is that his father was the one that Sir Gregor killed in the previous episode. So Qyburn did a fantastic job. He got the loyalty of that particular little bird and killed someone who made fun of the queen in one fell swoop. Two birds with one stone, indeed. Then he offers them candy, which, goddamn, Qyburn, you are already creepy enough. But for a surface glance at the implications, he is winning them over. He's winning over Varys' little birds, who are now his, of course, and he wins them through little favors. For example, killing that guy's father, giving them sweets. Who knows what else he helps them with. And above all else, kindness. Children respond to kindness, and Qyburn seems to be kind. When under the surface, he's actually a pretty fucked up guy. Fucked up mentally, that is. In the books, he is so much worse. He looks like a friendly grandfather, but he is a sadistic, cold-hearted bastard. You don't even want to know what he does in the books to various people. And then Sir Gregor comes in, and he names him Sir Gregor. Why? He to the world he should be Sir Robert Strong. Now you gave the kids an indication that Sir Gregor is still alive, although of course because the Dorne thing has fallen and Prince Doran is dead, they probably do not need to hide the fact that Sir Gregor is still walking around for some reason. And then he comes in, the kids leave in sheer terror of the giant. And then Cersei and Jaime come in. Jaime asks the question, can Sir Gregor understand language? And apparently Qyburn says he understands orders and such, so his brain hasn't been that affected. And then we move on to Cersei demanding little birds in every part of Westeros to report to him if people are laughing at House Lannister or the Crown. If treason is being plotted, if anyone is trying to pull a fast one and gain some power from the Queen's losses. And here you can see where Cersei starts to become a bit unhinged. Many people and there are indications in the books that she will turn into a Mad King-like character. It's completely freaking bonkers, stupid orders, cruelty, no mercy whatsoever. And, it's possible. And that may, who knows, maybe that will turn Jaime second time, well, not Kingslayer, but in this case Queenslayer. We will see. It is possible. Plus, it's foreshadowed by a prophecy in the books. I don't know if in the show they mentioned the Valonqar part, but I don't know. So that was the scene. It was good enough, I guess. We established the fact that now Qyburn Harris has the X-Varys little birds. We established the fact that, of course, there will be a trial by combat, and the Sir Gregor, Robert Strong will represent the Queen, which, he may actually win it. With that settled, let's go on to the next King's Landing scene. The second scene is a small council scene, and it reveals a few things. For instance, in this case, the small council knows. They know specifically that Robert Strong is Sir Gregor Clegane brought back from death. While in the book said, even in the epilogue of A Dance with Dragons, everyone has suspicions, but it is not known that who actually is Sir Robert Strong, truthfully. Okay, what goes on here? First of all, Pycelle starts off by saying that they should kill Gregor Clegane because he is an abomination, and of course, bad-mouthing Qyburn because that's all he's good for nowadays. Memories and bad-mouthing Qyburn. Then the trio comes in. Two men and a naked queen, well, former naked queen, and they make room at the table, even though they are not welcome. And Jaime drops this little piece of information. Apparently, the Sand Snakes have overthrown Dorne and are now ruling. What the hell? In the books, the Doran Martell may not be the most popular person in Dorne, despite the fact that he is the ruler of Dorne. But come on, really? Are you really gonna be led by a bastard? By Elia Martell, a bastard? Even though she was she wasn't even Oberyn's wife, she was his paramour. So. It's not even official yet. What right does she have to take over Dorne? The Dorne plotline was always shit, and now it's getting shittier and shittier. Hopefully, we will never ever see Dorne again, at least in the current timeline, because fuck them. Dorne the show is shit, and screw them. Let the Sand Snakes have Dorne because they suck and Dorne sucks in the show. So they complement each other. Well, not complement. They go well, together. And they bring up Myrcella. Kevin Lannister, of course, is scandalized that Jaime and Cersei make room at the table, even though they don't have the right. Although, to be honest, Jaime could stay there because it is precedence. In most small councils in the past, the Lord Commander of the Kingsguard had a position. Being the leader of the Protectors of the King, he I think has the right to be there, at least in the room to guard them, if not at the council table. So Jaime, at least, I think, was had the right to be there. The Queen, well, yeah, of course. As Lady Olenna, who, what the fuck is she still doing in King's Landing? As she pointed out, Cersei is not the Queen. Marjorie is the Queen. Yes, her unjust imprisonment. Marjorie the Great, whatever. I am not fond of Olenna. I am not fond of Marjorie. Cersei is okay. Olenna started off well in season 3 or whenever she was introduced, but then kind of devolved into, I don't know, not a very good character. She is, of course, witty, provides a bit of humor, although a lot more with a lot more of an edge, a sharp edge, than the other characters. She is a conniving old woman, and yeah, she's not my favorite. And apparently Mace Tyrell is now back in King's Landing. Apparently he finished his tour de force in Braavos. We don't know exactly what he accomplished there, but we may find out soon in future episodes. And that's it for this scene. Let's move on to the High Sparrow and Tommen, see what they've been up to. This scene, again, was decent. The High Sparrow basically lectures Tommen about the gods and the fact that his mother loves him unquestionably, and that love comes from the gods, the mother's love. He yet again explains that his mother cannot come and see Myrcella's resting place because she hasn't atoned for her sins yet. And he mentions a trial with 7 septons. That is a faith trial like in the olden days. In the books, when basically in the books it went on a bit differently. The faith was the crown had a giant debt to the face, and to pay it off, to make them forgive the debt, Cersei offered them the reinstatement of the 2 ancient orders of the faith militant, the warrior's sons, and the poor fellows. And that's kind of it. The stars and swords, I think they were named. And apart from that, they also gave them back the power to protect themselves and also the power to judge, the sword and scales. And a trial of 7 is a trial with 7 septons, and in this case it will be a trial by combat. Gregor versus the Faith Champion. It is kind of a long-winded speech. I'm not going to go into it. It was beautifully written. Jonathan Pryce, as always, is excellent as a High Sparrow. The fact that he dared to sit down and actually persuaded the king to sit down, that shows a lot of weakness in Tommen. And I think, of course, if he wasn't so not honorable but faithful, he would actually play Tommen like a goddamn fiddle. But he is the High Sparrow. He is the leader of the faith. He cannot allow himself to be so petty. I don't really have, as I've said, I don't have much to say about it. The scene was decent enough. It seemed like filler. Well, almost. The only information we got was the trial by 7 septons part, the trial of the faith. The rest you could just throw away, I think. Well, moving on to Braavos and Arya's montage. It was good. She learned different things. She learned to fight. She learned to, not to lie. Although, the lying game in the books, you try to tell a lie without the other person noticing it, or if you tell a lie just so that the other person can sniff it out. But it worked both ways. The lying game here is weird. It appeared to be more of an interrogation than a than a lying game. Although it may have been a test to see if Arya could talk about herself without talking as if she was that person in the third person, to talk about this aloof, you know, without any implication, without any feeling, without any emotions at all regarding her former life. To talk about Ariella exactly like she was just another girl in a faraway land with which she had no connections whatsoever. She also learned to differentiate different poisons or ingredients by smell, which was a skill, and of course by bottles and by feel in some cases. This is a skill she learned in the books too. Also, fighting with a staff, useful. That was some nice choreography there, and she finally was able to parry and also attack, which was great. Kudos for her. The montage was okay. It went on for about 2 or 3 minutes, but it was fine, completely fine. Next up, we have the moment everyone knew was coming: Arya regaining her sight. To regain her sight, she was once again tested. Tell me a name, and the girl may see again. I'm no one. And so he led her to the pool of a watery death, and he made her drink from it. And then there was light again in her life. It is quite interesting. Does the pool have power? Does it only affect those who have an identity? You know, for example, the pool kills anyone who drinks, but anyone does not encompass no one. If no one drinks, then no one will be safe. No one will survive. I think that's the play on words they went for that. They went with for that certain explanation. Although of course they did not say that, but that is the implication. When no one drinks, no one dies. Are you no one? Yes, I am no one. Well, you may drink from the pool then without any repercussions. So now Arya is officially a faceless assassin. Truly, she has been trained. She lost her eyesight, and now she's ready for her next mission. Although, well, we will see exactly what she will do next. Well, that is that done with. Let's move on back north at Winterfell. Ramsay Bolton. What a gigantic asshole. Alright, so the scene plays out like this. The new Lord Umber comes in, and he basically calls everyone a cunt, and then proceeds to telling us all how kingslaying appeals to him. Oh, show, how have you misrepresented the North? Yes, they are wilder than the glorious civilized South. But for God's sakes, they have standards. They have some taboos. Kinslaying is forbidden. Kinslaying is wrong. The kinslayer is attainted in the eyes of gods and mortals, even in the North, especially in the North. The North holds these traditions stronger than any southern house. The fact that a northerner can speak of kinslaying is just baffling to me. They are not fucking Vikings. They are Northmen. They have honor. That's the thing. Almost all houses in the North have this unshakable honor. They have taboos. They respect one another. They respect guest right. They respect their families. They hate kinslayers. They hate oathbreakers. What the hell is up with this Umber fellow who frickin' talks about kinslaying like it was the best thing in the world? What the serious heck? That's my first gripe. Then he brings in Rickon and Osha, who apparently were captured like a bunch of fools. And shocker of all shockers, Shaggy Dog is dead. Which is a shame. We didn't get to see a lot of him in the previous seasons. And now he's just, poof, he's dead. That's it. Goodbye, Shaggy Dog. One less wolf to animate, I guess, you know? Rickon's face is great when he sees his wolf's head again. The pain is there, the fear is there. The actor did a good job of expressing what Rickon would feel if he actually saw Shaggy Dog's head there like that. And then Ramsay's final line: "Welcome home, Lord Stark." And of course he was thinking, you are right fucked now, my friend. You will endure pain like nobody else has ever endured. We will see what becomes of it. The scene was decent. The only huge gripe I had was the kinslaying thing. That is not the North show. That is not the North. Well, moving on to the last scene, and we have the wall. The last scene at the wall. Ding dong, the bitch is dead. I think I said the same thing when Joffrey died, but now I get to say it the second time for Ollie. Rest in peace, you little piece of shit. Ha 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 ha. Alright, so the scene starts off with Jon Snow brooding over his tunic of many holes right now. Bloody tunic with many stab wounds. And Dolorous Edd comes in and says that it's time. Time for what? Well, time to kill some traitors, of course. Turns out that instead of just beheading each and every one of them, Jon Snow has elected to hang them. Hang them by the neck until dead. And he asks them for their final words. The first one expresses his distress at the fact that he is back and that it's not right. The second one is interesting. The second one drops a White Harbor reference, which I didn't think would happen. Although, of course, I think the Manderleys were mentioned in the show, which is a great thing. I'm glad that they're doing the Manderleys, but I'm not so glad that they left out the plotting that they did in the books. The Manderley plotline is fantastic, and although we only see it in a couple of chapters, they are preparing quite the master stroke, I think. Lord Wyman Manderley in the books is great. I don't know exactly what will become of the Manderleys of the show, but we will wait and see. Then we have Thorin, which gives a nice little farewell. You know, it's okay. Teal, I think the actor gives a good performance. He's correct. He is a stand-up guy. He says that he made a choice. He lost and now accepts his fate with, well, you know, he accepts his fate willingly. And then we have Ollie, who just looks in complete and utter hate at Jon Snow. And then he cuts a rope with a long claw, and then the four of them hang, and you get the last satisfying look at Ollie's dead face, because screw him. And then Jon basically does a peace out. He gives the mantle, I think, to Ed and the command ship, although of course there should be an election. And then he says that his watch has ended, as many people speculated that he would do this, because yes, the Night's Watch vows are until I die. He died. He came back, but he died. Technically, he was dead. His watch really has ended. And with his second life, I think he has a lot of plans. Although, it was quite funny the way he just left. I mean, you don't take food, you don't take something a bit warmer. No, you just, leave. Goodbye, Castle Black. Fuck off. I've had some good times here, but no. I died in service to the Night's Watch, and now I just want to get away as fast as possible. Screw you. This scene was great. It was one of the few great scenes in the show. I liked it. I imagine that something similar may happen in the books, although of course in the books I think the resurrection of Jon Snow will go a lot differently. I think there will be some sacrifices. I think the situation will be a lot more desperate, and I do think that the resolution will be different. But enough about the books. Well, let's move on to the final scores of the episode. So, score-wise, what I'm going to do here is break this thing down by location, not scene by scene, but location by location, and then I will calculate the final grade of the episode. First up, we have the wall, and I gave the wall scenes, both of them, a 9. These were two good scenes, full of emotion and a giant, an important moment at the end where the traitors are dead and Jon Snow leaves the Night's Watch, as many people suspected he would. Then we have the Sam and Gilly scene. I gave that a 7.5 because at least we got some minor exposition and a glimpse at things to come. Next up we have Bran at 8. I don't know. The Tower of Joy scene was a bit underwhelming. I was expecting more, and that's why I only gave it an 8. Dany with 7. Not a lot happened. And of course, Dany was being her prissy self. I'm Daenerys Stormborn of House Targaryen, the first of my name. I conquered cities, and yeah, but now you are alone and dragonless, so shut the fuck up. Next up, we have Tyrion, the Marine scenes. And I give them a 6, unfortunately. It all comes down to Tyrion. The Varys scenes were pretty good, but Tyrion just dragged the whole thing so freaking much. I can't even begin to describe how disappointed I am in Tyrion this season up until now. However, he gets better. That's all I will say. Next up, the King Landing scenes. I gave them an 8. A lot? Maybe I could have given them a 7.5 or something, but the Qyburn scene was okay. The small council scene was okay. The Jonathan Pryce was always okay. It was okay, and thus 8. Bravos with 8.5. Arya's train montage was alright again, and the fact that the emotion that came out from it was alright. It didn't have that many weak parts, so 8.5 it is. Finally, we have Winterfell. Despite my gripes about kinslaying, the setup was alright. The reveal of Rickon was alright. That did sound like the Umbers, the Umber-Bolton relationship. The fact that he didn't kneel tells me that maybe the Umbers are playing Bolton, I now realize. It is a possibility that they are playing Bolton and that giving Rickon up, they may have ulterior motives, other plans, but they had to get in order to get information and then to betray the Boltons. The fact that the Umber didn't kneel and the fact that he was speaking like that about kinslaying, it is possible that the Umbers are speaking falsehood, are trying to get in with the Boltons to then betray them from within. I don't know. But in any case, the scene was good enough, and I gave it a 9. I realize that makes it kind of equal with the wall scenes, but to be honest, I don't know. If I'm right now, and that was all, and that was all a feint by the Umbers to get in with the Boltons, then the 9 is deserved, because the reveal of Rickon, the reveal that Shaggy Dog is dead, was very sad. Rickon's face said it all. Ramsay being creepy as always. Anyway, so the final score of the episode is 7.925691, etc., etc. But in the end, 7.93 to be more precise, to approximate it. This was a bit of a disappointing episode. I was expecting more from the Tower of Joy scenes. There were some good scenes, Daenerys not being one of them. Tyrion, of course, was the major disappointment of the episode. And the rest was just okay. So that was my first review of a Game of Thrones episode. Please tell me what you thought about it. This was completely off the top of my head. I did not have anything written for this. I had a few notes written for the wall, but then I just gave up and just went off the top of my head, as I've said. If you liked it, then please say it down below. Encourage me if you want more of this. If there is not enough interest, I may still do them, but I may keep it a lot shorter. I realize that this is a bit long, but hopefully you will find it enjoyable. With that said, I hope you will join me next time for another review, and of course for the Westeros Vibe main show. So until then, see you next time. Goodbye.